The Seattle Mariners just acquired Randy Arozarena, an outfielder from the Tampa Bay Rays. Joe and I are here to talk about that because this is a big move. This is the biggest move so far of the season. And what we heard from Mark Feinsand was that it was 2 minor leaguers and a player to be named later. And according to Ty Dane Gonzalez, neither Ty Pete nor Michael Arroyo were in the lineup today. Joe, I am here. I am not Colton. I am here. Michael Arroyo and Ty Pete were not in their lineups today, so we're assuming those are the 2 guys that got traded as of right now. With that being said, the player to be named later, obviously, we'll figure out, later.
Later.
And talking about Randy Arozarena, Joe, how do you feel about this move?
I mean, it's a big bat that has been heating up. He started off the year pretty cold, admittedly, but over the last, I'd say like month and a half, I feel like he's been very, very good. Yes.
Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins.
Oh,
wow.
Okay. Interesting. Not what I expected, honestly. Aiden Smith, a guy that definitely is high, I think, on a lot of people's prospect boards. A quick mover up that list, I would say. Hitting well in Modesto. Hopkins, friend of the Locked On Mariners podcast, as Ty likes to refer to him on socials, has been shoving.
Number 12 and number 22 on baseball top prospects right now.
On Pipeline, and then the player to be named later. I mean, I have no pulse on like how high that can go. It's a situation of I'm honestly okay with that. Like, yeah, Aiden Smith is great. In like 4 years, I think he makes an impact. Maybe 3.
Don't care.
Is Farmelo ahead of him with the ACL injury? It's tough to say, but I'd say if anything, Farmelo can be just as good as Aiden Smith in 3 to 4 years. And Hopkins, like, he's great, but the pitching, I'd say that there's guys in the developmental system that are ahead of him, or at least guys that I could see being just as valuable as him. Morales is there. Jeter Martinez is there. Obviously, we just drafted Ryan Sloan and Durangelo Sanger. Whatever the player to be named later is, it doesn't matter to me at the end of the day. Like, the 2 guys now are Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins. I'm okay with it for Randy because Randy, he's been playing like over his last 7 games. 333, 433, 833 slugging. Inject that into the lineup immediately. And I'm in.
Cheese says the roster arguably gets worse here. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, Cheese. That's so incorrect. It's unbelievable. In June, Randy hit 291 with 3 homers. In July, he's hitting 288. So, yeah, you look at his first 2 months of 143 and 178, got off to a low start in April and May, but you look at the last 2 months, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball. There's no way around it. Like, he has been one of the best hitters in baseball in the outfield. We've seen what Randy Arozarena can do in the past, too. He's a guy who has put up numbers over the past few years of his career. You look at 2023, he hit 254, 364, 425 with a 121 OPS plus. He hit 23 home runs. In 2022, he's an all-star last year. 2022, he hit 20 homers, 263, 327, 445 with a 123 OPS plus. This is a career 123 OPS plus bat. What do you mean? The roster got worse.
Don't worry. He apologized. He said, my bad, gang. I didn't see his stats last month.
He's the best player on your roster currently. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Good job, Cheese. Good job. I'm sorry I said it was dumb. I was upset with you. I just know that everyone's going to complain, even though the Mariners made a big move. Lost Brody Hopkins and Aiden Smith, which sucks in a couple of years. In a couple of years, that sucks. You have Randy Arozarena the rest of this year, and you have him for 2 more years after this in arbitration. He's making $8.1 million this year. You get him for the next 2 years, probably making, upwards of $10 to $15 million. So, yeah, I don't know. Arms crossed, everyone. Arms crossed. Make it happen, Joe. I know you already did it, but let's do it again.
Yeah, I mean, but Randy's outs above average is -3, and he's got a really poor run value. Don't care. Needed the bat. The defense will play. It'll be fine. Honestly, like, whatever. I mean, if he's in left, I don't care. You've got, I'd say, when Julio's healthy, a very sound defensive center fielder that can make up for any ground that maybe Arozarena is not going to be able to cover. And now, DH, if, say, you want Robles, Rayleigh, and Julio in there whenever Julio's back, Randy can be the DH and be fine. But Jack M just saw, wow, do we know how significant the PTBNL is? Not at this juncture. I don't know really, like, I'm thinking back to like the Prelander and Donnie Walton trade where like that was a situation, like how that turned out. Like I don't know. It's so hard to have a pulse on where like the player to be named later can come from. If it's a top 30 guy, I'd say like anywhere between like 20 and 30, I'll probably be okay. If it's like 10 to 20, I'm like, okay, like it's starting to get into like the range of whoa, but still, it's not going to affect you in 3 to 4 years. And you needed this bat 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
I'm hyped.
I mean, in the end, anytime the Rays trade a player, it usually feels like a fleece for them, like they fleeced the Mariners. And in a couple years, that might be true. I don't care. This is the year. Randy will be around for another 2 years after this, so the Mariners would have him through 2026. And he, like I said, he's a guy who basically every single year puts up a 120 or higher OPS. Plus, he's a Super 2 guy, so he does get that extra year of arbitration. The Mariners traded Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins and a player to be named later. The player to be named later is a bit scary just depending on who it could be, because sometimes it could be a higher ranked prospect. And don't get me wrong, Hopkins and Aiden Smith are guys that I think were probably a bit underrated on the Mariners top 30. I
Yeah.
would have put them probably in the top 15 range. And that's what the Mariners gave up, but I think that's more than worth it. Andrew said, didn't know till I saw the stream. It looks like a small package for him. Let's heckin' go with the $10 holla from Andrew Schoengarth. We'd appreciate it. What a legend. Matt Brash was a player to be named later. That's fair. But in a few years, I mean, the Mariners need to win right now, chat. Like that is the end of the story. All right, we can't be prospect hugging because as if the rest of this deadline goes the way we think it should, there's going to be a lot higher level prospects given up than just these two guys. So yeah, I mean, this should be the start. This should be the start. Not this shouldn't be the big bat you go get, but this is a massive guy to add. This is a guy who's probably hitting 3 in your lineup tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. I mean, given also the injuries on your roster currently and how people have been performing, yeah, Randy should be batting 3. I mean, permitting that he's there.
Right,
Sometimes,
as long as he gets there by then.
sometimes it might not, like, he might not make it in time, but if he is, say, in the lineup, penciled in, he should be batting 3. You mentioned the package of Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins, where like as they stood right now, you said what, 12th and 20th?
22nd.
22nd. I have already I have my preliminary rankings. I had Aiden Smith 10, Hopkins 17 in my eyes. So you're saying both around 15. I think that's pretty accurate. Like our community member prospect hugger accent, he has a tweet on my timeline. People will look at Pipeline and think we fleeced. Most updated rankings have both of these fringe top 10. Ray's got a good haul. I agree. I don't think that this is neither a fleece or like either which way. I think it helps both teams tremendously for what they are looking to do in this current state of 2024. The Rays are looking ahead, trying to get out from under some money, and the Mariners needed a bat. Do they have space for Aiden Smith in 4 years? Maybe. Do they have space for Brody Hopkins in 4 years? Maybe. Do they have space for Arozarena right now? Abso-freaking-lutely. I'm okay. I'm okay if Aiden Smith is a top 5 MVP finisher in 8 years from now when he's reaching his prime. It's okay. You can't win them all, but I think you win this trade. This could very well end up being a win-win situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that Randy, not only is he a pretty dang good player, he's just a good clubhouse guy. Like it seems like everywhere he's gone, people seem to like him. He's a good vibes guy, and as we all know, that is what the Mariners need right now. Is they need the good vibes because this team is kind of in the dumps right now. And when Julio comes back, hopefully soon, with Randy in probably left field, I would assume, and Julio in center, you got then right field with probably Luke Raley or whoever else is out there at the time. Who knows how this is going to look for the roster going forward? But in the end, like Channing said, the Mariners window is now. They need to go out there and make these moves over the next 2 or 3 years to make sure that they're not wasting a generational pitching starting rotation that they have right now. And this is a really good start to that. I think that adding Randy Arozarena is the perfect start to what is set up to be a pretty big trade deadline.
Yeah, you can't stop here. It's a situation of this. I think he's got the potential to be either it's a like a 1A 1B situation as far as bats are concerned. There are definitely bats out there in the market that the Mariners could be in play for that are better than Randy, but if this is like a 1A 1B situation, like I would put Randy maybe slightly ahead of Jazz as far as a bat is concerned, given what Randy's done, bless you again, in his previous years. But they're hitting at a similar rate this year as far as OPS plus and WRC plus are concerned. If you got, say, Randy and Jazz, that is like a 1A, 1B situation in my head. Whereas, like, if you go get Vladdy's one, Randy's your like the secondary bat that you got. But they can't be done. And it doesn't, with the prospects that they gave up here, it does not feel like they're done. And you mentioned at the top, like saying, like, oh, like it's two prospects. Arroyo and Pete weren't in the lineup. What does that mean?
It might not be done tonight.
It might not be done tonight, true. But also in that same way, it's like those were two guys that, I mean, if you look around any Mariners like content creator, any Mariners space, names like Arroyo and Pete I think are constantly just getting tossed into packages. And they seem to have, I feel like there's a surplus of players that they can trade to continue to make moves and add on to this team. It's unfortunate that the team has been so bad that like this move doesn't fully solidify themselves at like the front of the AL West, because they still need to do more. There is more work to be done here.
I think that it's a good start though. Like we talked about, it's a great start. Pat, if you look at his last 2 months, he's not hitting 211. That's based on his first 2 months. His last 2 months, Bro's hitting 291 and 288 respectively in June and July. Yeah, he's playing a hell of a lot better right now.
He's heating
Had
up.
a bad start to the season. So what? It is what it is. Randy Arozarena is finally a Mariner. This is a guy that we've talked about a lot over the past few years that just made sense to be a Seattle Mariner. And I think that now that he's here, it's going to be so much fun to see him in that lineup every day. This lineup at full strength, when you have Julio and Randy going, could be a hell of a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, we talked about, again, with Ty Pete and Michael Arroyo both being out of the lineup, and somehow neither of them got traded. Maybe it was just days off for those guys, but if the Mariners decide to go out there tonight and make another trade, I guess we'll be going live again.
I mean, we'll just stay live the whole night.
Yeah, just no sleep till Brooklyn.
Exactly. No, the MLB trade deadline stream starts now. I'm just kidding.
Days early.
Just like 6 days.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised to not see Paredes involved in this trade at all. I get it. But, like, could you have made this deal bigger and added Paredes as well?
Maybe it's not done. We've seen things like that before happen where trades aren't necessarily fully done. But Chocolate Milk came in with the $1.99 super chat. Who cares about batting average? Old stat. Throw it out the window. How do you measure X aura? How do you measure aura? Because Randy's got it. True. It's a guy that will likely be, I think, a big voice in the clubhouse for a good reason. I don't think this is oh, we're worried about Jazz Chisholm's fit. To me, Randy seems like the voice that will be good. Like, will be a nice addition to the clubhouse. Nelson, W trade, W remember, dude. Shout out Nelson. I'm excited. Like, just flat out, I'm excited.
This is something we needed. And I said, I think on the podcast yesterday, I was like, dude, the Mariners have the off day on Thursday. What a good day to make the trade. I wish they would have done it earlier so that I could have made more content about it. But, it's fine. Here we sit at, 10 o'clock at night. And we get to watch, kind of the Mariners fans get really excited. There are some people that already went to bed. They're going to be waking up really happy tomorrow.
True.
Chocolate Milk with the $1.99. I personally think Rooker is a Mariner. I'm in. Chocolate Milk. I'm in if they're able to go make that happen. Nelson Clay with another gifted member as well to Wise Man's. Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. Big night for the Mariners, guys. Big night.
Dude, GK with the $1.99 as well. Appreciate. I see like some conversation about like it needs to get on base and like blah. He's the next Teo. If Bro's the next Teo, I mean, that's better than what we're getting out of a corner outfield spot right now. Would that be a little underwhelming given the expectations? Sure, like slightly. But I think being underwhelmed by a guy that will be an above average bat for you is better than consistently playing guys that are below league average, if that makes sense. Connor, huge W. Facts. Big facts.
Take my money. Gladly, chocolate milk with the third super chat. Thank you so much. Gladly. Yeah, I mean, I personally would love to add a 258, 305, 435 hitter with a 107 OPS plus that hit 26 home runs last year. I'd be happy adding that right now. Yeah, that's what Teo was last year.
Yeah.
So, hey, if he ends up being Teoscar Hernandez, cool. Cool. That's still the best player on your team right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, who'd we give up? We gave up Aiden Smith, as well as Brody Hopkins, and a player to be named later. Number 12 and 22 on the current baseball top prospects list from MLB Pipeline. We both have them higher than that on our own personal lists, but yeah, and then the player to be named later, who knows where that's going to be. But Michael Merriman with the 199, Vladdy next. I mean, this, like I said, could be the start of something big for the Seattle Mariners. I think that this is when it comes to beginning of a big deadline, this is like probably the best start you could have asked for. Other than obviously starting with Vlad.
Yeah.
But if this is like the second or third best trade you make at this deadline, the Mariners are going to be in a really good spot.
I feel like the people that want more out of this, I wish to just say, like, take a step back and understand, like, yes, he's batting 211 on the year. Look at the previous years, and yeah, like, we got Jorge Polanco, who was a career OPS plus of 115 basically every year, and then he's a pumpkin now. Do I have faith that Randy Arozarena is not going to do that? A little. I hope so. He seems like the guy that can, and especially since he's coming into this moment right now, playing at the height of his season so far, back-to-back months of just better, consistent approach than the previous 2 or 3 months. Catching a guy on a high as opposed to he's starting at a low. We have to, like, we're buying low on him. We're buying Randy on a high. I feel like if there's a guy that can come in and supplement the offense in the way that we need him to, Randy, a guy who's hitting well, who I've seen, I can't remember who said it in the chat. They've said it like 3 or 4 times, but like talking about his World Series run. Yeah, is he a couple years removed from that? 4 years? Sure. But that's what he has done when he gets scalding hot. It's similar to like a Julio in August last year, where he just becomes scorched earth, becomes one of the best hitters in all of baseball, and can take over games. Randy has that ability. Did he do it for 2 or 3 months at the beginning of the year? No. Is he doing it the last June and part of July so far? Pretty damn close.
I think that what you talk about, a guy that has playoff experience, a guy that's been there, done that, and had really big success in the playoffs, I mean, you can't discredit that. Like, I think that this Mariners team is a team of a bunch of guys who maybe haven't had that moment. And now going out there and adding Randy Arozarena, who has had he had that magical run. What year was that?
It was 2020.
2020, yeah, where he just put the team on his back for a few weeks. That's something that Randy Arozarena can do. And I think that if nothing else, he's been really hot the past few months. Obviously going to be a bit of a transition for him coming to a new team, but he's been traded before. It's not the first time that he's been traded. He was traded from the Cardinals way back when, right? And so
yeah,
he is a guy that I think adding to left field for the Mariners. And the Mariners, I mean, we read today that even though the Mariners have been in a free fall, they're still willing to go out there and make some trades, focusing on outfield help. And not even an hour later, Randy Arozarena is a Seattle Mariner. Like, and the fact that the Mariners just tweeted a trident, oh baby,
yeah, the vibes.
The vibes just skyrocketed there, because I mean the Mariners are on like a 5-game losing streak right now. They just got swept by the Angels, and you know what? The front office said, through the fact that we're not able to get any trades going right now, let's go out there and get a guy. And they did in Randy Arozarena. Ryan Johnson says, moment of silence for Rays fans that have to wake up to this news tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, it's 1 a.m. for them. Most of them are probably asleep. Yeah, that's tough, dude. But appreciate the $4.99, Ryan. Yeah, it's this is such a good thing for the vibes of this team right now. And I think that he could be in the lineup tomorrow. I think that he could be, because they played in Toronto, the Rays did today. So, I mean, just drop it. Hopefully he didn't fly I don't know if it was the end of their series or not, but hopefully they didn't like fly back to like Tampa or something like that and he has to fly out again. Hopefully tomorrow. I would expect no later than Saturday. So that's the hope. Anyway.
I saw a question of how sad are we about the guys we traded? Like, Sure, it's a guy like two prospects that were definitely rising through the ranks. Like they're 12 and 22 as it stands right now. Re-ranks definitely would have had them higher. I'm not losing sleep over it. I'm not super attached to either Aiden Smith or Brody Hopkins like I am to other guys in this system. Like if it was Jeter Martinez and Lazaro Montes, we might be having a different conversation, a slightly different conversation about like who fleeced who or who got what. I will say, Colton, the Rays were heading back to Tampa. I don't know if you said it because I was typing out the thing, but they're heading back to Tampa to play Cincinnati. So we'll see if Randy's there tomorrow. If not, I mean, you didn't lose anybody on the major league club. So like you're just gonna keep rolling out the same stuff. But adding him into your lineup either Friday or Saturday against the White Sox will be huge. Chris, appreciate the 569. Perfect player for the Mariners, potentially dynamic bat. It's a pretty dynamic move, you might say. I can get behind it. Clubhouse, good vibes all around. Let's freaking go. Maybe is there? Oh, Seattle Mariners. I was thinking because I always see like the LFGM for the Mets. The S is for the Seattle Mariners. And then Kevin, the 999 right after. Colt, you want to read that one?
Yeah. So Kevin says, act out a scene where Randy Arozarena comes in, fires Scott Service, and leads us to the World Series as a player manager. Joe is Randy. I am Scott. Hey, Randy, welcome to the team. Nice to meet you.
I'm just posing, and then you can feel my aura and my absolute dominance over you as a human being, and you.
Yeah, it's your team now.
Yeah,
it's your team now.
You excuse yourself. Appreciate the 10, Kevin.
The Rays game Upka series heating up. I mean, he's been a guy that has been talked about a lot. I think in the past few years that the Rays would give up because he's going to get expensive. I mean, over the next few years, like I said, he'll probably make 10, 15 plus $million, maybe even 20 in 2026. And that's a guy that the Rays just don't want. And they're not going to pay for that. When will we know who the player to be named later is? I actually don't know, like, if there's a timeline on that. But
I really don't know either.
It could be tomorrow. It could be weeks from now. So, yeah, I mean, who knows? But I don't know, man. I'm just so excited. The Mariners finally made a move. And I think looking at just all of my timeline, it looks like the rest of the Mariners fans are too, which is super cool to see.
It's just like a positive moment for a team that's been in free fall for a month. It's coming out of the break. You're 1-5. You needed something. You needed some change. This is definitely a positive change. I saw a question earlier. Blaine, check the pinned message. It's Aiden Smith, Brody Hopkins, and a player to be named later. And something that you've said, it's just like, how long do we have him for? He's not a free agent until 2027. Of course, that can change. The Mariners can trade him beyond this if they so choose. If they're like, maybe he's getting too expensive for us too. But you're saying he's making $8 million this year, so we'll have to pay what, $4 million, maybe like 3.5 the rest of the way. He's probably going to get over 10 this next arbitration case, and then beyond that, maybe getting closer to 15 in his final year. But I'd say that could be worth it if it's a guy that is a consistent 2020 season for you in a corner outfield spot, giving you 115, 120 OPS plus level production, who could be a good vibes guy. It's a nice Robin to Julio's Batman out there in the outfield, seemingly. When they're on the field together, we said it a bunch, the aura, the electricity between the two of them, and then, you've seen it with Robles. Like, Julio and Robles vibe. They're absolutely vibing when they're both out there. Of course, it's maybe happens to do with Robles playing well. Will that consistently stay? But if it's, say, the outfield of the future for the rest of this year after Julio comes back is Randy, Julio, and then Robles, and you've got Rayleigh going to play first or playing against a tough righty and Robles sits, like, it's definitely better than what they've been rolling out the last month and a half. So,
yeah, according to Joe Vieira, Randy Arozarena at T-Mobile Park is hitting 289, 333, 511 with 3 home runs and a double in 11 games, 48 plate appearances. So he's been able to hit here in very limited time. Obviously, that doesn't mean a whole lot. So was Teo. So we'll be interested to see kind of what happens there. But what do you think, Joe, that the corresponding move is then for Randy Arozarena? Is it Mitch Haniger, or are they sending down one of Marlowe or Clase?
I feel like they'd send down Marlowe and Clase first. If it is the goodbye parade start for Mitch Haniger, I'd be fine either way. Kent subscribed. Missed Alex subscribing earlier as well. Appreciate that. I would lean them optioning Marlowe or Clase first because, I mean, recency bias, Mitch just popped a homer. Like, maybe he's back. Probably not. Like, realistically, he's not. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it's easier to play around with the guys that you can option as opposed to now DFAing Mitch and maybe dealing with that later. If that makes sense. Are you in the same way, or are you just ready to cut ties?
No, I think I'm in the same boat. I mean, Marlowe and Clase, frankly, haven't proved that they're even better than Mitch Haniger at this level. Not that they've been given the opportunity, but they haven't proved they're better. And it's a lot easier to send them down than it is to cut Mitch and deal with losing his contract and getting literally nothing out of him. I think that, like you and I have talked about before, Mitch makes sense as a bench bat. And because of that, you're able to keep him probably the rest of this year. I mean, he's going to have that player option next year. Mitch will not see the field for the Seattle Mariners next year unless something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the Mariners made like Adam said, the Mariners made their move with Tampa Bay like they always do. They made their move with Tampa Bay, and that was getting Randy Arozarena, a huge move for them, in my opinion. I think that the next move probably now we move to the infield. I would assume whether that be shortstop in JP's absence or they focus more on first base. Ideally, that guy being Vladdy. If it's not, like, if you add, let's say, Ryan Mountcastle,
Mm-hmm.
right, which isn't a great pick, but if you trade for Ryan Mountcastle, you got to feel better about this offense either way.
Yeah, it's definitely a situation where you're making adjustments and you're making changes for the betterment of this team. This is obviously not a selling trade in any way, shape, or form. If they were to go get Mountcastle, that's also a non-selling trade, depending on the package. But like, it could be that one. I feel like could be a lateral move. Like that could be where you trade like a reliever that's on your major league team. That's like, all right, now we got to go make room. Whatever. Luke, can we trade Mitch? Depends on which one you're talking about. Both are probably no. Realistically, just with money owed, that would be a selling type of move because you're gonna attach a contract to a player that's been poor this year and hope that a team is like, yeah, we'll take him along with a prospect for something. Like it's I'd say unlikely, but appreciate your 5 nonetheless. But I don't think either of the Mitches will get traded if any roster move occurs around them. But
so what then do you think, Joe, is the next move? Like what do you think the follow-up move is to acquiring Randy Arozarena?
Another subscriber. Whoa.
Keep them coming.
I know.
Like the stream, chat, and make sure you're subscribed. Do it.
Yeah, what Colton said. I feel like Jazz. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I feel like Jazz makes sense because he can play second base for you. If they're not feeling Polanco, and he can also go play an outfield spot. Doesn't really help you at short. Doesn't help that situation because JP's out 4 to 6 weeks, and you don't want to see Dylan Moore there. So that's my only hang up is why I don't think it's Jazz, but in the same vein, like with Cupcake Ski, let's go. Subscribed. I just don't. I've seen too much about Jazz that like I can't not think it.
Mm-hmm.
The only shortstop I think that would make sense. Guys, so many subscribers. Nick, Aaron. Maybe, I mean, you mentioned it, Paul DeYoung. You mentioned in the podcast, Paul DeYoung, White Sox. Could that make sense? Sure. And then he becomes
Ahmed Rosario as well, like from the Rays,
Yeah. I don't know. You said infield, but you're not sure about if it's middle infield like shortstop or a first base. There's Luke's $5 really late. Who would you lean to as the next move?
I mean, in my opinion, it should be a first baseman. I don't want to see, Tyler Locklear or anyone else over there over the next few weeks. With that being said, I think that a move for a first baseman is tough right now because obviously Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the guy the Mariners want, right? Because we already heard from John Heyman that the Mariners have been really aggressive on him. Obviously, nothing's come to fruition yet. Um, but in the end, the Mariners, I mean, the trade market started in earnest today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had this move. We had, what was the move this morning? What am I dumb? Or was it yesterday?
AJ Puck
AJ Puck, yeah, from the Marlins
to Arizona
to
for
the Diamondbacks.
their 14th and their 30th ranked prospect.
Right.
But the
So,
14th guy is this De Los Santos, who's been crushing in
who's
AAA.
probably much higher than a 14th. Yeah.
He's similar to like the Dom Canzone, I think, player that we got in the Seawald trade, is like a AAA guy that's mashing, that's basically ready for the bigs, just maybe didn't have a spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the next move should be a first baseman. The Mariners got the ball rolling today for themselves specifically
Mm-hmm.
on with this Randy Arozarena trade. However, I think that if they want Vladdy, they are going to have to overpay because I don't think that we've talked about this, as I love to say, ad nauseum, that the Blue Jays don't want to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That much is clear. But if the Mariners want to go out there and get Vladdy, they have to overpay. They have to give up extra. And whether that be, 3 guys in your top 10 or whatever it's going to take. If Ty Pete and Michael Arroyo being out of the lineup today is the start to the Vladdy package, and then you add some of the guys in the top 5, I'm in.
Yeah.
If that's what you have to do, I don't care.
The Vlad stuff, it's just difficult because of the conversation around how the Blue Jays feel about their position with him. Bichette feels honestly more likely. And yeah, he's having a really down year, but that's a shortstop that you can plug in right now. Maybe similar to like Nico Horner. Who would you, before I ask you that question, Trevor, 499, so hyped right now. Got Randy, still have all the top 10 prospects. Next 4 days is gonna be super interesting. Trevor Weston, appreciate your 499. Something that we've kind of talked about. I mean, obviously people come in, go out, whatever, doesn't matter. The conversation is going to be kind of cyclical during a stream where we're reporting stuff like this. But if this is the first move, this feels like I said it earlier, this could be a 1A and 1B type of bat, Randy being the 1A, or, appreciate it, they go bigger and Vladdy is the 1, Randy's the 2. Or if it's Pete Alonso, the Mets are playing well, I don't know if that makes sense. If this trade grows bigger and it turns into Isak Paredes, it turns into Brandon Lau, like there's options still. I don't know if I just feel like the first base market doesn't feel as like realistic, or maybe I want to say necessary for who's available. If the Mets were out of it, I'd say, yeah, Alonso, sure. But given JP's injury, I feel like going and getting a guy like either Bo Bichette or Nico Horner could make more sense for right here, right now, and then they slide over to second, or Bichette goes to third, however it works. Who would you rather go get out of those 2 guys?
Between Horner and Bichette?
Yeah.
Well, Bichette's still on the injured list, so
sure.
I would probably lean Horner, just because I think you have him for an extra year as well.
Because he's already signed.
For Bo, yeah. Because Bo you'd have next year, but I believe Horner you'd have for 2 more, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'd just rather have Nico Horner in that regard. He's having the better year as well. Not a great year by his standards, but I think he's having a better year than Bo Bichette is. He could definitely fill in over there in the middle infield if you need him to, with JP being out. And I think that that's a guy that's probably going to be easier to go out and get than it is to go get Bo Bichette. And I think that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. And then maybe you use your top end prospects elsewhere, whether that be going out and getting Luis Robert or what have you. Could you imagine if they add Randy and Robert?
That's the thing, is like with Julio's injury, like why not? Why not go get a premier center fielder and then play him in center until Julio's back? A thought that I just had was Donatello. DeYoung is switching locker rooms tomorrow, isn't he? DeYoung and a reliever like Michael Kopech. You trade one of your relievers and say a prospect of some sort for Mountcastle in like a lateral trade. So you get the reliever that you fill that spot with a trade with the White Sox. You get your shortstop fill in until JP's back, and then he becomes like a more bench role, which would be fine to have. Having Paul DeYoung in a bench role come the postseason era time, that'll be fine to have because he's a guy that has a decent amount of experience just overall throughout his career. Yeah, he's a journeyman at this point, but he's having a pretty solid year. You get a reliever that can then replace whoever you traded to the Orioles. I wouldn't want to go super high with it. If it's like Thornton, okay, sure. If it's Gabe, you just got him back off the injured list, sure. If it means upgrading at first base with Mountcastle, it could be worth it. I don't know how that plays into like Tyler Locklear's position on the roster, if he's part of a trade elsewhere. It's hard to really navigate because there could be a lot of moving parts. But if that's a situation where you say don't go fishing in the big market for a shortstop situation or a middle infielder situation because you feel, I don't say okay, but relatively okay, that a guy that just plugs that hole for 4 weeks is fine, and then you get the reliever on top of that you're probably seeking this deadline, I'd be okay with it.
Morphiend, strange name, says we can't afford to dig into the minors for those moves. Yes, we can. The Mariners have one of the best minor league systems in all of baseball.
At least top 10.
They can afford to give up 3 or 4 of their top 10 and still be all right for the future. Arozarena has to be our new leadoff hitter, right? No. If we're talking about lineup, Joe.
Oh.
What do you think? Because let's assume that he's here tomorrow. What is the lineup looking like tomorrow?
I don't know what he's done for the large part of this season because he's been struggling up until June and July. In his career, he's got 67 games batting first, 102 batting second, 167 batting third, 140 batting fourth. Those are the top 4, which makes sense. Randy Arozarena is definitely a guy that should be batting top 4 in your lineup. I feel like, it can't be not Dylan Moore. It can't be Josh Rojas after his stretch with like leading off during the Angels series in games 2 and 3. I don't think he should be batting leadoff, but I don't know who's the better option. Is it Robles?
Oh yeah.
Is it Rojas? Like, what do you go Robles, Arozarena, Cal?
What Dylan said. Yep. Robles, Arozarena, Cal. That's probably what I would do.
Okay.
And then moving forward after that, it's a toss-up right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like with how bad this team has been recently. But yeah, Robles in right field. Batting leadoff. What else? What else do you do? Who else could bat leadoff for you right now? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense either way. But if now, assuming everyone's healthy, Joe, where do you go with that part of the roster or the lineup?
If everyone's healthy?
So like, let's say Julio and JP are back.
JP hasn't really done inspiring stuff at the leadoff position this year, but I feel like it's his spot until he loses it. He probably should have already lost it. I'd probably go JP, then probably, oh man. It just depends, because like if Robles cools down, then that completely changes. I'll go JP, Robles, right. Randy, Cal, Julio. Batting 6th, Luke Raley, Mitch Garver. Batting 7th, Tyler Locklear. 8th, Dylan Moore, if he's in the lineup. Josh Like, it gets funky. Like, Polanco's 7-8-9. Rojas is 7-8-9. Like, they're all towards the bottom. Dorian saying it will be Horner leading off. Good contact guy to have at the top of your lineup. Daydara, if you got this trade done, chills, do the Horner trade next, please. Can you get them on the phone really quick? That'd be great. That'd be great.
If I'm putting like that just goes to show how many holes there still are in this roster. Like, I think that because of how we're having trouble with the lineup right now, even if everyone's healthy, it's so at the bottom half of the lineup just needs help. JP's been bad. Rojas has been bad. Even Luke Raley's been bad recently.
Struggling.
Polanco's been bad. I think that going out there, you have to add more. So if I had to put together my perfect deadline the rest of the way, obviously you added Randy.
Mm-hmm.
My perfect deadline the rest of the way, I still think you have to add one of Vlad or Robert.
Damn.
Perfect deadline. Yeah. I want to go big.
Sure. Perfect deadline, yes. I understand where you're going. As like the
obviously
ideal
the
situation.
Greatest deadline yet, both. But Perfect deadline. You add one of either Vlad at first base or Robert to play center and then move to right field. And then you go out there. So I'm just going to say Robert for this. So you add Randy, you add Robert, you add Ryan Mountcastle. And then you add maybe like Paul DeYoung. If that is the Mariners or the Mariners trade deadline, I'm in. Like,
oh yeah,
that's a great trade deadline if you make that happen. Yeah, and Valero says Rosenthal says that the Yankees and Mariners are in on Jonathan India. Honestly, like I've never been a big Jonathan India fan. Right now, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'll take it. I think that he is pretty overrated, but he's having a good year, and he's been a guy who's been a league average bat for his whole career. Right now, a league average bat would hit.
Just go crazy in the lineup.
Crazy.
Yeah. If we add Robert DH or still run Garver, if you add Robert and then when Julio comes back, Robert and Randy can then just rotate DH and I'd be fine with Rayleigh being the other corner outfield spot or playing for like there's definitely room for that rotating DH of how they want it to work. It can be that, given that Garver shouldn't be your everyday DH and he's more of the backup catcher role now anyways. There's room for the roster flexibility to get kind of I don't know, like just utilize those guys in that position, but
yeah, I mean, at this point, Mitch Garver should probably be relegated to a backup catcher role because that's all he is. That's all he has been. And because of that, I think that going out there and getting Robert, who could probably use something, he's a great outfielder, like great outfielder. With that being said, it probably makes more sense to then have him play DH a little bit more often simply because of his injury risk. And then maybe if Robles does continue to hit, you have Robles out there, who's also a great defensive outfielder. So in terms of the money owed to Jonathan India, he is in 2025, he'll be making $5 million, probably about $1 million this year. And then he's ARB 3 in 2026. So you'd have him through 26 as well, same as you will with Randy. And so maybe like that's, maybe after 2026, they're basically saying, okay, these next 3 years, that's our window. Because obviously you'll start to lose some of the guys at the top. I think at that point, Logan's gone after 26, right? Is that how that works? Or is he through 27? I think doesn't matter.
Yeah.
From
being honest with you, I wasn't listening to you talk.
All right, sounds good, brother.
You say Logan? So he's gone.
Don't even...
Logan Gilbert, free agent 2028.
Okay, so he's through 27. Okay, so
sorry.
Thanks, man. Austin Wells, Randy seems like a great fit, veteran with playoff experience and just great vibes. Exactly what we needed. Let's make some more moves, Austin, with the 499. Appreciate it, man. I completely agree. The vibes are good. He's a good hitter. I think that he's going to play really well in this lineup with he's basically, hopefully he is what we hoped Teo would be. That is the goal.
There's a lot of hopes and what ifs and stuff there. I've got some things I want to address in the chat. Rengifo, Jerry DiPoto trading with the Angels feels like it's just never going to happen. So that's why not talking about it. Like Rengifo, sure, makes a ton of sense. A guy that can play all around the entire field is basically Dylan Moore, but having a lot better of a year than Dylan Moore, I think you typically ever does, right? Yeah, it would make a lot of sense. I don't think the trade fit does, though, based around Jerry DiPoto and the Angels. I saw someone say Robles sucks in center. He's better than anybody else on this roster right now in terms of that positional fit, unless you're saying Luke Rayleigh, who I think both will be fine in Julio's absence. Randy should not be playing center field. It should be either Robles or Rayleigh. Both will be fine. Julio's out for, it's a high ankle sprain, so it could be a little bit longer than maybe the 10-day, but it sounds like they're pretty optimistic about how he was progressing over that weekend series against the Angels. Not the weekend series, the early in the week, the front of the week series, Joe. That's not how the week works. That was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It seemed like he was progressing well enough to where maybe he's only out for the White Sox series. Maybe it's the 10-day minimum, right? That's where I think you're at with this trade is, Robles or Rayleigh will be manning it until maybe the first week of August, somewhere in the middle of that. And then Julio could be back for the Phillies series, the second, third, and fourth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see kind of how it plays out. Because again, we only have a few more days until the trade deadline, so the Mariners still need to say this is not a Julio replacement while he's hurt.
Mm-mm.
Like you said,
Not
this
at all.
is hey, we needed a corner outfielder, whether Julio was here or not. This move gets made. This is not a reactionary move. Now, if
No,
you
of course
go
not.
out there and add a shortstop, that might be a reactionary move. $20 from Greg. I needed live chats during the depressing play the last month. I miss you guys. Go all in. It's a great start. Greg, I miss you too, bro. We appreciate the $20 holla. What a good way to spend the evening, chat, talking about the Seattle Mariners in a positive way. Let me tell you, when we've been trying to talk about this team lately on the podcast, it has been soul-sucking.
Just sad.
Like, Joe and I, when we recorded the podcast last night, I literally told him, I'm like, dude, I don't want to talk about this team right now. I don't.
Just
like,
got to the end of
have,
it just like with a bitter taste in our mouth.
Dude, it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
I saw somebody say, "Are the Mariners now out on Jazz?" I don't think so.
I don't think this rules out Jazz, no.
Yeah, I think that he's still a good fit. Maybe it becomes less of a pressing issue,
Mm-hmm.
but I still think that Jazz makes a lot of sense on this roster.
If you go out and get Jazz, he's playing center field for you in that same way that I just said about Robles. Really, he will be playing center field for you until Julio's back. And then he can go move to second base and move Polanco onto the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What? Yo.
Oh, you just got owned. You genuinely just got owned. That's so funny.
I look like the grandpa Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I mean, your birthday was yesterday. This is the Mariners' birthday present to you. There we go. There's Greg's
Dude,
super
that's
chat.
why I was hoping they would have done it yesterday, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, come on. But yeah, I think that there's still room on this team to go out there and add a middle of the order bat. Like, I think that it's still time for the Mariners to go out there and add, like I said, Robert. If you go out there and instead of adding either Robert or Vlad, let's say you don't get either of the two big name fish at the top right now.
Mm-hmm.
You go get Jazz, you get Jazz, Mountcastle, and Paul DeYoung. That's still a pretty dang good trade deadline.
Yeah.
And especially once, Julio comes back and whatnot, I think that you added to this team enough where they should be able to make the playoffs with that, right? Right?
It'd be, yeah, right? Without, like, maybe career, like, level regressions that we've seen all the entire year. Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed Jazz, he has played shortstop before. It was the last time he's done it was 2021, and he was pretty horrendous there as far as defense is concerned. Whoa, got a double kill there. Would you be okay with Jazz manning short for a month, or would you rather not?
I'd be okay giving it a shot for a couple games.
Yeah, just for fun.
And then if it's bad, saying, okay, that
All
was
right.
fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
Aaron, call me crazy. I think Bellinger should be seriously considered. Easily can bat fourth and play first daily. Aaron, I completely agree. Thank you for the $4.99 and your first super chat on the live stream, by the way. Appreciate that. I completely agree with you. He's just injured right now. And so the problem with that is I don't necessarily know what his timetable looks like. I haven't really looked into it recently.
I'll go search.
He's a guy that if you're able to add him, he's such a tough pill to swallow because he can opt out at the end of this year. Otherwise, you're on the hook for paying him like $25 million next year, which I don't really care. Pay him as much as you need to. But it's a bit scary to know that for what it's going to cost to trade for him. In my opinion, he would probably garner more. I don't know. Do you think he'd garner more than what the Mariners just gave up for Arozarena?
It's hard to say because of the teams that you're trading with and like what they kind of value. Like the Rays, they're fine with kind of shipping out guys for prospects. The Cubs maybe don't view themselves in that same light because they can be big spenders in certain markets. I appreciate some of the subs that just popped up on screen, Mike and Scott. So maybe they'd want a guy that's maybe more major league ready, closer in that regard, that fills out the prospect package. Like the cost, I would say, could be, I'd say it's close, because depending on like if they pay down any of Bellinger's contract, like the player option gets funky there. he was hitting and throwing on the field yesterday.
Okay.
Council said Bellinger could come off the IL during the Cubs' upcoming road trip. So that was posted yesterday. So it seems like maybe he's like a week, 10 days
Yeah,
away.
make the trade.
Yeah, why not? I like Aaron, I think it was Aaron Urseth said like a left-handed power bat or some sort of bat lefty in this lineup. Jazz makes sense. I think Bellinger fits that bill all the same as well.
I think he fits it better.
Could fit it better just like positionally as well. And then Hunter Peterson, $4.99 right after Aaron Albrecht's Dipoto fleece job. I think for the next 2 to 3 years, easy fleece job, because you're getting a guy that will play on your team versus a guy that won't play on, two guys that won't play on your team. And if that's my brain process for how trades work, I will always say that the guy that you're getting that will play on your major league team this year is the fleece situation. That's not necessarily how it always works, but in this specific scenario, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think that this is something that for the Mariners, it's going to be, I think they're calling their window here in the next 3 to 4 years. That's their window. So we're finally in it. It took a little while, but we're finally in it. And because of that, the Mariners are going out there and adding a guy they're going to have for a few more years. Whereas Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins might be great performers for the Rays coming up. But I think this is the time they need him. Kay Kinney with the 5 gifted.
I didn't even
what an
see that.
Absolute legend. Happy late birthday to Kay Kinney. The 5 gifted to Trupp, to Seattle MLB fan, to Keith, to Billy, and to somebody.
Goated Lamp?
Where did it go? I didn't see it. Whatever. And
Goated
then Mikey with the 17 months. LFG boys still need Vlad. 2 relief pitchers and a bench bat. Agreed. I don't know about 2 relief pitchers, but maybe 1.
I feel like 1 and Michael Kopech will do the job. I feel like that's a guy that could make a lot of sense. Yeah. Or Paul DeYoung, or all 3. Yeah. Get crazy. Let's start making MLB the Show trades. Why not?
Robert, Paul DeYoung, Kopech, and Jared Schuster.
Whoa. Julio and Randy in the same lineup gonna go nutty? Facts, Jake. Facts.
Now here is the question: if we're making moves necessary, is Scott out of here, or is it the front office more for failing again? At the end of the season, I would say Scott is gone for sure. I talked to Lyle yesterday. Yesterday. From the
Marine Layer
podcast. And Lyle made a really good point, because I was talking about how like I would think the front office is gone. The thing with that is, if the front office is gone, if Jerry and Justin are gone, Lyle pointed out, that means everybody's gone. That means Scott Hunter's gone. And we know how good the Mariners are at drafting and developing, and Scott Hunter is a massive part of that. And so I think that that's something we have to take into consideration when it comes to how, because if Jerry and Justin are gone and basically the entire draft develop team is gone, it's going to be a whole new ball game in that front office. We got 10 gifted from Greg, by the way. Just continue to be an absolute legend. To Kai, to Jordan, Adis the gamer, to Creed Bratton himself, the Scranton Strangler, Caden, to the Lions, to Kank, to Danny, to Christopher, and to David. What an absolute legend. What
legend.
We need Vlad on this team. Or this team ain't staying ahead of Houston. Well, we're behind Houston, so I have terrible news.
Can we have Rooker? I've seen Rooker like just getting thrown around in chat a ton. Haven't had a moment to really like settle down and talk about it. There was also a moment where someone asked, I think, if Rooker can play first. He hasn't played first since like the minors, like 2-3 years ago. Would that be a likely scenario? I honestly don't think so. If you're going out and getting him, he is your DH and like a random corner outfield spot. In that situation, you probably trade a guy like Dom Canzone. Like Dom Canzone makes, I think, a decent amount of sense as being part of a trade package that you send to Oakland to get Brent Rooker, because it's an everyday corner outfielder that they can just see what they get out of him for the time being. And he realistically, if you get Rooker, you just got Arozarena. Dom Canzone doesn't have a spot on this roster at that point. So if Rooker's still in the cards, I would be a little surprised, just only because the Athletics, like you're trading within the division, sometimes that gets a little funky. He's going to cost a pretty penny given his control and how he's playing on the year so far. And then just overall fit, there would definitely need to be more turnover happening, given that we just acquired Randy Arozarena, who is a similar defensive person to Rooker, a corner outfielder that's like subpar defensively, and a DH sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, I'm down. Like, if you're able to go get Brent Rooker, somebody said you could throw Rayleigh at first base, etc. Like, I think that it makes a lot of sense either way. I don't know, man. I think it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens over the next 4 days. I'm really excited for the live stream, Joe. I'm not gonna lie.
on Tuesday,
Yeah,
and
I am like,
go crazy.
In the next few days, dude, I work Sunday. I work Friday, Sunday, and Monday. But I got so much sick time, bro. If something happens, I'm calling in.
Just do it. Why not?
I don't care. Sorry, Mike. Sorry to my boss.
Saw someone asking about a Santos update. I don't think there's any update. Hawk for life. I don't think there's any update other than the fact that he felt a sharp pain in his knee.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
yeah, we'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah, like if he gets some sort of like what is it when you just like, is it a cortisone injection? Something like that. Just get one of those bad boys shoved in there and then call it a day and he'll be good to go on the mound. Getting a ton of subs right now. John, Aaron, Project, Elijah. You guys are going crazy with the subs. Appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
No idea, but we need to get to 20K if you want to shave your head.
Yeah, guys,
15K or whatever it was.
If we get to 20K, I'm going to shave my head. Just so we're clear.
Mm-hmm. There's what, 600 some of you guys in here right now? There's got to be people that aren't subscribed.
Yeah. Let's make it. What should we make it 15K?
No.
No. Okay.
I don't think you want that. Call the next trade, boys.
15K by the end of the season or 20K by the end of the year. I will shave my head.
I'm calling
the next trade.
I'm calling my good buddy Chime Bloom. Don't answer the phone. I'm just kidding. Don't do it.
Hello?
Chime Bloom speaking. All right, stop. The bit's done. I hung up.
Thank you for not almost doxing my phone number.
I almost did.
I know. I could see that.
The stream would have ended immediately. Gone private.
And deleted it. Yeah.
Call the next trade, man.
Blake becoming a member. Thank you, Blake.
Appreciate it, Blake. I'll say, you asked me earlier what the next one is. I still can't move off it. I'm saying Jazz. All about the Jazz. Jazz and Tanner Scott, and then you go make that trade for Mountcastle where you give the Orioles a reliever as well.
Okay.
You'll get Jazz and Tanner Scott. It's going to cost a decent amount. Pete and Arroyo are in that trade easily. Ridge, Alex, subscribed. Appreciate it. And you're going to have to toss in more guys on top of that because you're getting good control in Jazz as well, similar to the Randy Arozarena situation. Tanner Scott, not so much, but they pluck relievers off of trees. This team does. And does it make sense the Mariners to trade for a reliever? Not really. They've never really done it, or they haven't had the need to do it because, like, what?
Nothing. Keep going. I was reading chat.
Got it. They create the relievers in the lab. They don't need to go make the trade, but hey, if they do, so be it. Mikey, $2. Vlad, Toro, Crochet, Griffin, Jax, thoughts? I mean, it would be a dub. The Crochet one is interesting because he said that he won't, like, if he gets traded, he needs an extension kind of a vibe. Mm-hmm. And his innings are all wacky. But, I mean, sure, get funky with it.
I'm in. Gage pooped my pants just now. Thank you, Gage, for letting me know. Let's go. Hopefully, first trade of many. Agreed, Gage, with a $9.99. What a legend. Yeah, hopefully the first of many. A lot of ones coming up here, I think, that make a lot of sense. Joe mentioned Jazz. And I think Jazz. Jazz. I think adding Jazz as well as adding Tanner Scott makes a whole lot of sense than to go get Mountcastle. Which, I mean, Joe, talk for a sec. I'll pull up Mountcastle stats.
Fantastic. Lucari, are you saying for me to read the chat about Randy's City Connect? Because it will be fire. You're not wrong. That jersey will be fire. Greg.
You know what'll be more fire?
What's that?
Him hoisting the trident.
Whoa. Yo.
In the City Connect.
With the pose, like one arm crossed, or like he crosses his arms with the thing in it. Damn. Damn. We're cooking. Greg, $10. Why not take a flyer on Tim Anderson to fill in for JP and Dylan Moore not cutting it? Or is he washed? I'd say he's washed.
He's washed.
Like, I understand where you're going with it, though. Instead of having to make a trade, give up assets for it, you take a flyer on a guy that's not currently on a team. I get the idea. Appreciate the 10, as always. But Tim Anderson feels like a guy that is, ever since he got that 1-2 buckle my shoe from Jose Ramirez, definitely has not been the same. Anchor Pete, $1.99 just for the vibes. Appreciate it.
No words. First super chat ever. Anchor just says,
Just
boom, take my money.
run it.
Appreciate we're cheap strippers.
Relax.
So Ryan Mountcastle this year. Excuse me. 266, 306, 436 is a 742 OPS. He's running an OPS plus of 113. Home runs, he has 12 homers this year, 81 strikeouts. He's a career 114 OPS plus guy. Never had one below 100.
Mm-hmm.
He is running a 1.8 WAR so far this year as well, if that matters to people. He's not a free agent until after the 2026 season as well. He's a first baseman, has played some outfield as well. Just a right-handed hitter. So I don't know. I think he's a guy that makes a lot of sense for the Mariners. He's not sexy. Well, he's not the sexy pick anyway.
Yeah.
But,
I think the reason why we're talking a lot about Mountcastle as well, by the way, this isn't like just like random, like a first baseman. Like
right.
There was a rumor, I don't know if it was at the MLB trade deadline like account like on X that just like posts like players that are being shopped. Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, the Orioles will listen on offers because they've got such, there's a 10 from Greg. They've got such a loaded farm at positions that Mullins, who's having a down year, that Mountcastle, who is an expendable piece. They've got guys that can supplement that role that they're willing to make make like probably a lateral form of a trade to make themselves better in different spots that they might be lacking. Hence why we're saying Mountcastle, and we trade them a reliever of some sort with a player in mind of like a maybe 15 to 20 prospect with decent upside that maybe is closer to being ready, or maybe it's like an Emerson Hancock and a reliever, but then that gets weird because you probably need pitching at that point. But you know, that's kind of where we're at with like why we're mentioning Mountcastle. Anchors super chat came up on the screen. Appreciate it. Seattle Gunner just subscribed. W. Sour Vanilla. Can't believe we got Randy. Mariners Anonymous has come a long way. Sour Vanilla. Smooches, bro. Smooches, bro. Came a long way from the vibes that we had over the weekend. Very jazzed.
I mean, trading them like Trent Thornton, right? Maybe Trent Thornton and like Troy Taylor, I think makes sense.
Oh, like, Troy Taylor's an interesting guy. He's been touching 100, crushing, just mowing down guys in Arkansas. Interesting name. Like a guy that has decent upside with a ton of control, obviously because he's in the minors. Like teams will have him for 7-8 years. Get the most out of him that way. Okay, I see. You're cooking.
Thank you. Trupp, I did not read the whole thing, but I did see that Emerson was at 5. Where did Felton and Arroyo end up? I did not see all that, but dude, I appreciate the 5, Trupp. I did see Emerson number 5 overall in the MLB.
Crazy.
But that was Keith Law, yeah. So, but yeah, I should have prefaced the whole thing with Mountcastle. That's my bad.
No, that's okay. It's something that like if people are kind of tapped into the deadline, they would have seen that more than likely. So like I didn't think about it until just now, like as well. Like, oh, people might not know that like the Orioles are shopping them because it doesn't make sense. Like the Orioles aren't selling, duh. That's more of like a lateral type situation. Nate right. Just subscribed. Appreciate it.
Something that you need for something that another team needs. It's both teams are basically in the end helping each other out. In terms of Mountcastle's contract, he's ARB2 next year, ARB3 2026. This year he's making about 4.1 million, so that's probably down right around $1 million, I'd say, give or take, maybe 1.5 or so. So yeah, I think that looking at that trade, Mountcastle does make a lot of sense. Obviously, Randy being a guy who's going to make a decent amount of money over the next few years, maybe depending on how the Mariners view their payroll right now, they want to go with someone a little bit lower in terms of not going to make a ton of money in Mountcastle. He's probably making under 10 next year, I would assume.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense to go out there if they can't land Vladdy or Robert, because God, who knows? Who knows, right? I think that because of that, there's a decent chance they do go some of these lower moves. It does make a huge difference. Adding Mountcastle, adding Jazz, adding Paul DeYoung or something like that.
Some of like the supplementary moves like might not seem big in the moment, but can help like trim the fat. Like Adam Ray, sup dog, so pumped. Yes, obviously. Who else are we getting? Like Colton's saying, like Paulie Young could be a supplementary guy that allows you not to have Dylan Moore go play shortstop for 4 to 6 weeks until JP's back. If you view Jazz as a supplementary move, as a maybe second bat to Randy in the situation, he can play center. He can play second base. You're saying, Adam, you want to get rid of Polanco, let Polanco go. If you get Jazz, Polanco moves to the bench. Or I think I can't remember who said it earlier, but Polanco can go play third base. I don't know if it'd be pretty. Rojas has been great defensively over there. Yes, his bat has cooled down tremendously. It's a weird situation, but I don't think the Mariners have the opportunity to like play around. They have to go make moves. They have to go get things done. And we've seen some Bo Bichette's in there. That's a guy that I mentioned. I don't want to say like I'm taking credit for Bo Bichette, but like there's shortstops that can be available. And what is next? It's hard to say. But with guys like Arroyo and Ty Pete not playing today, feels like they're still cooking. Feels like Jerry is still at the stove, whipping it up. But Yasha Kuzman, $4.99, Mountcastle and Mullins to Seattle, and a 3-teamer for a couple of prospects. And then Crochet going back to Baltimore with the White Sox. If we get, because I feel like the Orioles would probably want some sort of reliever in there. If we get, the hard part for me is Mullins, because how the fit makes sense beyond Julio's return. Not to say that we couldn't use a major leaguer like Mullins, who's been there, done that, has robbed homers in Seattle. Like, of course, we can use a guy like that. But 3-team trades definitely get crazy. Appreciate your $4.99. If there's a reliever coming back to us, if it's a guy that Colton mentioned in his deadline idea, and Jared Schuster, if it's Kopech, but there's definitely going to be relievers moving around in that trade if Baltimore and Chicago are involved. I don't hate the idea. It just gets very confusing with 3 teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I like it. I think there's a good plan for it. In terms of talking about Randy, Ben Ranieri posted, and he said, don't get it twisted. The Rays did very well in this deal.
Oh, yeah.
But this was aggressive and it had to happen. I completely agree with that. Is this an aggressive move by the Mariners? Yes, because in terms of guys that have been talked about at this deadline, I feel like Arozarena has kind of been pushed back a little bit.
Well, it's a weird situation because who said it? Was it someone on Puck on his show talked about like the Mariners being out on some of the Rays bats? I can't remember who said it. Yeah, if it was Duquette or someone was on, if it was Bowden or I can't remember. And then we go out and get one of the Rays bats. Like, yeah, Randy definitely felt like he was flying under the radar, whether or not it was because his slow start and now he's picking it up and maybe people are like, wait a minute, Randy's back, kind of a situation. DJ Jerry Nice, $1.99, not to interrupt you, Colton. First time buyer, go get Jazz or better Vlad, W picks for the next trade. Gotta go do something.
Make it happen, DJ. I'm in. Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's just because obviously Paredes was the guy that's been talked about a lot. Yandy Diaz, before he was placed on the restricted list, was a guy that made a lot of sense. So when it comes to adding Randy Arozarena now, I would assume this pushes, at least for the time being, Luke Raley over to first base more or less full time, with Robles playing right field. And I think that obviously that could change literally any day now if the Mariners do end up going out and making a trade for a first baseman. But because of that, with Rayleigh over there at first base, I feel a little bit better about it. Like, you probably, in terms of your lineup, I don't know. Somebody asked what's the timeline on him getting here. I'd say probably game 2.
Yeah.
I'd probably be a little bit more not cautious, but a little bit more lenient with when he's going to be here. I don't think he'll be here tomorrow, especially with how late this trade was. Maybe if they did this morning, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But because of how late it is, I would kind of be shocked if he was in the lineup tomorrow. But I would assume he probably bats second or third on what day would that be? Saturday. For that game against the White Sox, with Robles probably leading off. So we will see him August 3rd at the meetup, Mike. That's right. Mike got his tickets today. You're darn right.
WWW.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think that it's just what a freaking great way to end the night, man.
Mm-hmm. We got Adamception. Adam Beckwith. That is the Adam Ray. Stand-up comedian Adam Ray. Huge. I've seen some clips on TikTok. All right, I've seen some clips. We got Adamception in here. It's going crazy right now. It's going crazy.
Tampa was leaving Toronto, maybe a quick trip. I think Keith, I would assume that he probably already made it back to Tampa by the time this came out, unless they were like, hey, Randy, you just might want to stay at the hotel.
Hey, bud.
Hey, buddy. And Randy's like, why? And they're like, don't worry about it. You know, like
just maybe don't come. Randy, you've been kicked off. Or you've been voted off the island. Sorry, pal.
Yo, shout out to you, Adam. Just regular Adam, no last name Adam.
Just Adam.
Let's not forget other Adams who are loyal to you. I'll appreciate it, Adam.
We can't have any Adam erasure here. I apologize if it seemed like I was offering up any sort of Adam erasure in that situation.
Yeah. Playing favorites with Adams, dude. Come on.
I mean,
Gary's uncle's name is Adam.
One literally made the video game that I've played for 3,000 hours. All right. Of course, I'm gonna have some sort of bias towards an Adam in this chat. Okay, my bad.
How do we feel about Lane Thomas?
Could be a dub. I don't know if you go get like what Finnegan, and or isn't it Kyle Finnegan?
Is it? Who's Brandon Finnegan?
That's a name, but I don't know. We'll figure it out. I feel like if you're trading with the Nats, getting a reliever from them could make sense too. If it's just Lane Thomas, I mean, that's another corner outfielder that moves Luke Raley probably into a first base rotation platoon there with Locklear, and then him going into the outfield as well. Sometimes like it'll get interesting if they go out and make another corner outfield move. I think if you do it, I would prefer a guy that has more positional flexibility like a Bellinger or a Jazz that can then go play a different position. Anchor Pete, another $1.99. Do you see the M's trading starting pitcher for a bat? It's tough to say.
Tough question.
Yeah, like sure, we have a good amount of quality starting pitching for the major league team. That's really it. Like, yeah, Hancock just threw a complete game shutout. His stock is probably pretty high. If you do trade Emerson Hancock, I feel like you have to go and get some low-level guy that can be a spot start for you if, like, injury, something does happen in a trade elsewhere. And does Hancock really command that much in the trade market? Not really. Like, he's not the sexy top prospect he once was. Like, he's not going to be catching any big fish out there. It's not that he isn't valuable. It's just his value is probably not the highest, and where you're at, you still need him with the roster construction. If you're trading Brian Wu, that gets funky. Like, then you're just Hancock is your number 5 the rest of the way. Like, that just gets funky.
Mikey just paid for the 3 fellas. Appreciate it, Mike. I just got the notification, but I'll send those over here after the stream. Mikey, you just send me like your email that I can send them to. Can't wait to see the Rose. Arozarena? The Rose. Is that his nickname?
That's that's his nickname for in Seattle, the Rose.
Yeah, somebody mentioned sign or trade Brian Wu and go pick up James Paxton the rest of the year. Like, I mean, I don't necessarily hate the idea, but it would be just a very strange way to go about it, because obviously the only thing that is good about this Mariners team this year is the starting pitching. So trading from that depth just is scary to me. Again, I don't hate the idea. It just is a little bit scary. Brandon Finnegan retired in 2018, Joe. He was a pitcher for the Reds.
Sounded like a pitcher.
With like a 7.4 ERA. Yeah, Kyle Finnegan is the name.
Yeah.
Andrew, message me on like Twitter or something like that, and we'll get you all set up. We'll figure it out. Send your email. Got it, Mike. Thank you. Let's see. I would trade Harry Ford for Robert or Vlad for sure. No hesitation. Same. No, immediately.
I think that's the trade factor that makes the most sense, where you're giving up a prospect who probably has more value in your system than maybe in others, given your catching depth. Harry Ford feels, I don't want to say invaluable to your team as far as that positional depth is concerned. But if it means getting either guy that can be a top 10 MVP type player when they're at their best, yeah, you make that trade and you figure it out later down the line. Not to say that the Mariners have maybe I've been great at identifying good major league replacements for guys, but if it means you're getting Vlad or Robert, yeah, I'd trade Harry Ford.
Mm-hmm.
Bet
Yeah,
online.
Hawk, I do think that Rayleigh is going to move to first base. Yes, at least for now. Yeah, that's the second bet online joke I've seen so far. Well done, guys. Well done.
Keeping it consistent as we do here.
Randy Arozarena is not going to uncook this team. No, but it's a start. It is a start. You got to start somewhere, and I think Randy is a great start. Like, if they would have started with, like, Paul DeYoung, I would have been like,
Great. I mean,
cool.
what was the big move that started all last year? It was trading our premier closer, right? Wasn't that the first move that was made last year?
That was, like, the only move that was made. But, yeah.
Hey, Edward Bizarro.
Edward Bizarro.
And then, like, what in 2022? It was, like, Jake Lamb and Kurt Casale. Like, this is a huge move considering how the front office has operated in the past. Yes, it's not the big, like, whoa, we just got Juan Soto. Like, whoa, this is Manny Ramirez going to the Dodgers type situation. No, of course not. But this is a pretty big move, all things considered, with this franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest trade deadline move in recent memory for me in terms of pure buying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when it comes to, like, trading Graveman or trading Seawald, those are moves that help you this year. Yes, there were guys that were close to the big leagues and whatnot with, like, Toro, and obviously last year you got Bliss, Canzone, etc. But this is the first move where you are just trading straight prospects in a buying move that I can remember at the deadline in quite some time. And because of that, I am freaking thrilled, man, because this is the first time in years that the Mariners at the deadline. Castillo, thank you. Yeah, right.
I was like, what am I missing? Castillo, right. Of course.
I knew there was one somewhere. Sorry, guys, that's our bad. So, whoa, okay, chat, whoa, sorry. Oh,
Relax. You know,
we're sorry.
Put the pitchforks and the tridents down. We're sorry we forgot about The Rock, okay? Our bad.
You know, the last time they made a big buying move at the deadline, Joe, they made the playoffs.
True.
Let's go.
True.
Just saying. We're excited, folks. We need another Luis. Let's get another Luis. Gotta keep y'all on your toes. Thanks, guys. Game Face. If they make no more moves, is it a disappointing deadline? With his third super chat. I think so. I think that'd be pretty. That would be pretty disappointing. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's still like, okay, you added, but you have to add more. You have to.
The thing is this we're 5 days away. I think Simplistic asked when the deadline is. It's July 30th, which is Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
I think it's Eastern, 5 p.m. Eastern.
Is it 5 p.m.? Okay.
Something like that. We'll know on the day of because we'll be live streaming it. But
all day
screaming.
What's going on up there?
Stop. So we're 5 days away. If they don't make another move in 5 days, given where they're at, just in terms of like tonight, before everything was confirmed about Randy Arozarena, Adam Jude was like, hey, they're in the trade market pretty aggressively. Outfield's the main thing. They've done that. They need to continue to do more. And much live, Riley. Nice job, dude. Really Thanks. Great job there.
Typing's really hard.
Typing's hard.
I meant to say much love, Riley, just for what it's worth, not live. I hope you live for a while too, but
that too.
I mean love.
It can't be their last move. If this was it, it's a good move, but there has to be more. So yes, it would be disappointing.
What position is next if they trust Locklear? I don't think they do. I don't think you can. But I would assume the next move would be shortstop to fill in for JP at least. Well, I'm not saying it's going to be a huge move. Like, I'm not going to say they're going to go add Fernando Tatis Jr.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think that is probably the next move because this is something that has to get done. The sooner the better. Because if I have to we talk about this in the podcast, if I have to keep watching Dylan Moore play shortstop, I'm going to gouge my eyeballs out with a spoon. So.
I've seen Hawk for Life, Bliss for shortstop. I mean, would he be better than Dylan Moore right now? I'd say it's probably a coin flip, given how Dylan Moore has looked. You have to upgrade externally for, I think, any better production at shortstop. I don't think it's going to happen internally with Bliss, with Rivas, or Dylan Moore. If we're talking about bringing Cole Young up, whoa. All right, he's the second baseman in 2025, guys. Relax. All right, slow your roll, and that's why maybe trading for a guy like Nico Horner doesn't make a ton of sense because you've got him under like contract for a couple more days, a couple more years, just a couple days, guys. He's on a 10-day contract.
Move Polanco to a second, you know.
Yeah, it gets all funky.
Horner to second.
And so, I don't want to say that they need to acquire rentals. And I don't want to say that I'm giving Cole Young opening day, second base, 2025 as a guarantee. It's just there's going to be a lot more moving parts if I had to make any assumption about how the rest of this deadline is going to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Chad, I think that's going to do it from us. I don't know what else there is to talk about right now. I mean, what a humongous night. We've been alive for almost an hour and a half now. We had over 700 people in here at one point. You guys went absolutely crazy. So, but no, we appreciate all the love, and we appreciate you guys hopping in here with us because we know it's late. We know it's 11 p.m. for most of you.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that you guys are able to just hop in here and bring the good vibes back as Mariners fans, dude, we appreciate the hell out of you guys all being here and all the kind words as well. You guys saying, hey, that you guys thanking us for doing this kind of keeps us going. So we appreciate the hell out of you guys. Hopefully over the next few days, Mariners are able to make some trades. If they are, you'll probably be seeing our ugly mugs again.
Yes.
So
I mean that J.I. is saying it best. See you in an hour when the next trade happens. Jerry and Justin don't sleep. Mm-hmm. All right, we'll be up, ready to go, ready to cook another one.
Me, Joe. Call me, and I'll be up.
Okay, I bet I'll make sure that you're.
I'll be asleep. Yeah. But no, appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Go Mariners! They added Randy Arozarena, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Really quickly, you guys should go watch this video.
Yeah.
Oops, that's the wrong thing.
Okay.
I hit the wrong button like 4 times.
That one. Yeah.
Jake raised the trident, posted a video about Randy. It's 5 minutes. Watch it before you go to bed. Good night.
Yeah. Go watch that.
Bye.
Bye.
Desert, don't tell me to stop spamming. I hope you get summoned for jury duty.
It's my channel.